Hi, my name is Nadine Bilgen, and the title of my study was Where Are You From? Does Country of Origin Matter in Organization-Public Relationships? I used two theoretical concepts for my study. The first one was the country of origin effect. It's actually a concept from marketing, and it's used in advertising a lot. It basically means that if people know the country of origin of a product, it will influence how they perceive the quality of the product, and it will eventually even influence their purchase decision. The second concept that I used was a theory from public relations, organization-public relationship theory. This is really hard to pronounce as a foreigner. It basically means that organizations are well advised to keep relationships with their publics, because if publics feel that they're in a relationship with an organization, they're more loyal towards the organization, and it works a whole lot like interpersonal relationships. So what I wanted to do was to combine these two concepts and to look at whether, if people know the country of origin of an organization, does that affect how they perceive their relationship with that organization. The kind of organization that I chose was a car manufacturer for various reasons. First of all, there are car manufacturers from many countries, and so there are many different varieties out there. Also, most people have a car, or at least in my sample, most people did. And very often people know the country of origin of their own car. And also there had been previous studies done on car manufacturers when it comes to country of origin in marketing research. The method that I used was an experiment. My independent variable was country of origin, and my dependent variable was organization-public relationship. My participants were undergraduate students from several classes of journalism. My N size was 234. Because I used journalism classes, I had a very high percentage of females. 80% of my participants were females. 20% were males. I hardly had any freshman participants, but I had about a third sophomores, juniors, and seniors each. The participants were randomly assigned to 3 different cells, and the different cells received different stimuli. My stimulus was a corporate image text that I had written that was supposed to come from a car manufacturer. It was a fictitious car manufacturer that I had made up. And the corporate image text talked about the car manufacturer's values and commitments, and it also mentioned that the car manufacturer was proud of its heritage. So this is where actually the 3 different cells come in, because one cell identified the car manufacturer as German, another one as South Korean, and the third one actually didn't identify where the car manufacturer was from. So that was my control group. The reason why I chose Germany and South Korea was that there was previous research that had showed that German cars are generally perceived as being of high quality, and South Korean cars are generally perceived as being low quality. So I didn't make that up. You might think, but I didn't. No. The instrument that I used was a paper and pencil questionnaire, and it had 2 scales. One scale was the scale for organization-public relationships that was used by Hahn and Grunig in 1999. And items are measured on a 5-point Likert scale, and it measures factors such as task sharing, communicated relational commitment, conversational human voice, responsiveness, customer service, dialogue, and positivity optimism. The second scale that I used was the country of origin scale that was developed by Parmes-Varan and Pischer-Rodi. I'm really sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly, in 1994. And they had actually used the scale before for car brands, so I didn't have to adapt it at all, really. Items are measured on a 10-point Likert scale, and they build factor indices for several different items. For one is general country attitudes, which means how do people feel about the country, in my case where the car manufacturer was from. The second one is general product attitudes. How do they feel about products from that respective country? And then the third is specific product attitudes. So how do they feel about cars from the specific country? And of course I also asked for demographics, and I had a manipulation check which worked. My research questions were first about organizational public relationship. Does country of origin correlate with organization public relationship? And unfortunately, there were no statistically significant results that indicated that there was a relationship between these two concepts, at least not in terms of the cells that people were assigned to and then how they perceived their relationship with the car maker. However, one of the relationship factors from the scale, communicated relational commitment, was correlated with country of origin, which I think is interesting if you're a company from a country that is perceived positively in terms of country of origin, because it means that people will also feel, or are more likely to feel, that there's more communicated relational commitment. So of course it means that as a company you're well advised to know where your country of origin falls. I also asked people if they knew the country of origin of their own car. And 67% of my respondents said that they did. And I also asked them what the country of origin was, and most of them were correct. So my question was, do people who do know the country of origin of their own car view their relationship to this car manufacturer differently from people who don't? And this was actually not supported. There were no statistically significant results that indicated that. However, I also asked if people who do know the country of origin of their own car judge the country of origin of my fictitious car maker any differently from people who don't. And there were actually statistically significant results for that. As it turns out, people who did not know where their own car was from rated the home country of my car maker higher, and also the products from the home country of my car maker higher. So, and if they did know where their own car was from, they were more likely to rate them lower, which I think might mean that for people who do know the country of origin of their own car, it just played a bigger role probably in their purchase decision, and they're probably more convinced of a certain country being good as a country of origin for cars. I also had two hypotheses. The first one was the higher the home country of a product is rated, the more willing consumers will be to consider purchasing it, which basically came straight from marketing literature, and this hypothesis was statistically significantly supported when it came to all three factors actually. So, which also tells you that if your company comes from a country that is viewed positively, it's definitely something that you would want to communicate. My second hypothesis was that the German car maker would be regarded higher than the South Korean car maker, which also came straight from the literature. And this was actually really interesting because there was the overall ANOVA did show main effects for the home country and for products from the home country. And Germany was regarded higher in terms of a home country than South Korea. But actually even the control group was regarded higher than South Korea. So if people didn't know where the car was from, they thought it was a better country than South Korea, which is of course bad news if you're South Korea. So if you're a South Korean company, it might be better for you not to mention at all where you're from. They also rated German products higher than Korean products, but they did not rate German cars higher than South Korean cars, which was actually what I had taken from the literature. And I think that's really interesting, and I think the reason for that might be that the perception of Asian cars has changed in the United States. My scales were from the 90s, and many people now drive Asian cars. Many people in my sample drove Asian cars. And last year, for the first time, more Asian cars were sold in the United States than American cars. So I think that this is actually an area for further research, because it might be something to pretest if that's actually still true, that people regard South Korean cars lower. Another limitation was, of course, that my participants were a student sample. It was a convenience sample, and it would be interesting to look at older participants. And of course, it would be interesting to look at different countries, too. And probably also to give more cues in terms of the country of origin in the relationship text to see if that actually does affect the relationship in the end. That's it. Thank you.